this semester, you're going to have a project that spans the entire semester, one project. Now, there's going to be other smaller projects that you're going to have to work on, but for your midterm and your final, you're going to have one project that spans across those two things. However, your midterm is largely going to be a design-oriented version of that project, whereas your final is going to be a fully programmed prototype of that project. So this module, you have to put together a proposal document for the project that you want to make. So, what should that proposal document look like? Well, generally speaking, it doesn't have to look like what I'm about to show you. It just has to have a lot of these concepts in it. Generally speaking, what you're about to make is a document that you should think of as something that you could email to a client, and they would then understand exactly what you were proposing to them to design for them if you were going to make a web project for them. So the idea here is you want to explain what project you want to make, why you're going to make it, and then show the parts that you've come up with in your design proposal. So let me just show you a quick, not exactly example document, but sort of the parts of the document that you should probably make. First of all, name your project. What's your project called? In this case, it should probably be called something like your store. What's your storefront called? Probably call it that. At that point, there needs to be some sort of statement of intent. The statement of intent is basically a way for you to write in words what the project is about. It's important that you be able to explain to somebody else whatever you're making. And if you don't know what you're making, you can't explain it. So you got to figure out how to explain it. So writing it down is an important aspect of that. So there should be a written statement of intent of the project you want to make. And in this case, it's probably good for you to write down not just what you're going to make, but why you should make it. Are you a topic expert? Do you care about this? Stuff like that. At that point, you're probably going to need to do some exploration. And in this case, you have probably already taken another design course that has explained to you better about how to make a document like this and what should be in here. But I just want to cover a couple of things that are more specific to this class than those other classes. For instance, when it comes to exploration of fonts, oftentimes when you're working with a print document or something like that, you just get to pick fonts and it doesn't matter and it's whatever. But when we're talking about a website, the fonts are all over the place. And if there's too much font variance, it can be frustrating. And so you, generally speaking, want to try to keep your font choices to something simple, small. Probably 2, no more than 3 fonts for the entire site. And when you show those fonts, don't just say the name and be done. Show them in action on a page that actually shows, you know, what the difference between them is. Hopefully it shows what kind of size variance there is, so that even if, like, you're looking at this screen right now, that's probably not the size the text would actually be shown on a web page, but it at least shows the relative sizing of headings and body text in terms of how they might be used. So try to show an example of what you're going to use for fonts, not just the font name or the alphabets of the font. When it comes to showing color exploration, you probably want to choose at least a couple of colors. I know that when you've done design, when I see design documents for other classes, sometimes they just show a 5-color scheme, something that they pulled out of like the Adobe Colors project or something like that. And although those are fine, when it comes to a website and the many uses of color on that website, just like with fonts, it's important to show how you might possibly use this color in multiple different ways. And having light and dark variants of whatever color scheme you're looking at is a good idea for you to show just some consideration for what might need to be done for things like borders or offsets or something like that. At that point, at some point in this project, there needs to be shown some wireframes. You definitely need to show what pages you want to design for this project that you're making. So what are the page layouts, wireframes, or anything like that? In the case of most of the classes, it's probably fine if you just have some pencil sketches, but a lot of the students like to go further and take these into Illustrator or Sketch design layout documents. So you probably don't want to go too far at this point because you're probably wrong. So keeping it simple, keeping it to simple shapes, in fact, using those colors that you just chose in the previous page and actually putting them to effect in here might be a good idea, but trying to like show actual lorem ipsum or anything like that might be going too far. There needs to be some sort of user flow or site organization chart to actually show what kind of idea you have of the project you're actually going to make. It's important when you're making this thing to consider the actual organization of your site in terms of tiers. For instance, you can see here on this listing that there are 4 pages. I just did air quotes. There are 4 pages that are on the same tier, and then there are other things that break off of those. There should also be a clear distinction between actions on a page versus page changes or page transitions. In this case, I have a number of square pages shown here, but then there's a search button. So the idea is that the search happens in the page, probably, hopefully in the store page. But however you make this, make a clear indication or a clear distinction between actions and pages. Then at some point, you probably need to do some more exploration, imagery, iconography, all that kind of stuff, perhaps even a mood board. These are all things that could be put in here to show the aesthetic of what you're going to show. If you're going to put a mood board, make sure that you actually show inspiration from technical sources, not just colors. I know that a lot of design classes have mood boards that end up with students just showing sort of stars or oceans or something like that, to show a mood. But in this case, it's probably better to show inspiration. And in that case, inspiration should come from more technical sources than just the world. So showing an ocean is good. Showing the fact that you like Amazon's buttons is better. Showing sources that are going to inspire your layouts and sources that are going to inspire your components is a really good idea for when you're working on this. So for this assignment, you're going to have to work on a proposal document that is a first draft. You're going to make one that is good enough to show your idea and get it across, and then you're going to continue working on it for the midterm. This proposal document will be part of your midterm so that you can show exactly what you want to make for the second half of this class and for the final project. Even if it continues to change as you go along, you should consider this proposal document